Hello, everyone. This is Trista coming at you today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into a Purpose Driven Wife podcast. I'm your host. And guys, this is episode 2 to the secrets to successful house buying in business. And I continue my conversation with Elizabeth, who is a blogger from the Reluctant Landlord blog. And she gives such great tips. Simple, basic tips to help you to be successful in the business of house buying. Okay. And so I ask really just everyday questions from someone who hasn't gone through the house buying process, and for those that have gone through the process, she also gives excellent tips. And this is so much jam-packed with great information. So guys, put your seatbelts on and get ready to take notes, because this is great. So a lot of the information that is shared on this episode will be on my website, A Purpose Driven Wife, at adrivenwife.com for more information. And if you would like to listen to last week's podcast or episode on the secrets of the business of house buying. So, guys, thank you so much and enjoy. Okay, so we talked about what we should do when it comes to buying a house, right? Mm-hmm. What our mindset should be. So when it comes to buying a house for a business, how our mindset should be. And I know we talked about a little bit about that, but going into buying a house as a business, what are the 3 steps again, when it comes to buying a house as a business?
It's the same as what we discussed.
Yeah.
With the only difference that, when we've decided on our BAH and what that monthly payment is, we then checked what that rent would be and made sure that those houses that we're looking at that fit our monthly amount, so say $1,300, we can rent for $1,600, so that when we move out, we should at least have that $300 buffer. And you don't want to anticipate that it appreciates, because it might not. If it does, great bonus.
Okay, so just like we talked about, when we find a house, make sure it's within budget, like our BAH, right? Not the rent, but the mortgage would be.
Right. So we always figure out what mortgage would be comfortable in our budget. So for us, we always leave the entire BAH amount as whatever our new location is. So we budget off of my husband's salary minus BAH.
Okay.
So then when we're looking at our next house, whatever BAH is minus $300 is kind of what we're looking for. Obviously, as we get older and we have kids, you might need all of BAH or a little bit over, and you can adjust your budget as that. But we always try to protect BAH amount, which is why we rejoice when we go somewhere with high BAH and grumble when we go somewhere with low BAH.
Can you name places like California with high BAH?
Oh no. Valley, California.
I'm joking.
She spelled out to $1,450 for a freeze. So no, not Central Valley.
Okay, what about Texas?
Well, Texas is actually higher than Central Valley, California is. So that was high. And then we went to Virginia Beach. It was $50 more. So we had like $1,600, I think. $1,650. And now we're looking at Whidbey Island, where houses are $360,000 and our BAH is $100 more. I think it's $1,700.
Wow.
And out here we bought our expensive house for $230.
Wow.
So it's been an adjustment. But out here now, we bought in the low time. So out here now that our same house is going for almost $300. So big doesn't always keep up, and that's when you have to decide okay, am I going to go for a smaller house? I found my dream house, and my husband's sure, if you can get it for $60,000 less, go for it. Otherwise, let's reevaluate. So now we looked at a brand new foreclosure that just came on the market that would need tons of work, but it's $230,000. So that's where you like reevaluate like what you're interested in, what your budget is, what BAH is. Like, okay, so yes, BAH is not higher out here, but we just, this is C tour, so we're making an extra $600. We decided that, family life is important. Or when we got out here, we got lucky and found this like cute little starter home for $160,000, and it was $950 for our mortgage. And so we pocketed $500 a month from our BAH, and that went to like fun stuff when I wasn't working. So that's really personal, and only you can know that when you figure out your budget. Just remember that whatever house you buy with the mortgage plus the little bit that you need to be successful, so say $200 or $300, that needs to appeal to the next group. So if you bought a family home that's at family BAH, make sure it's in a great school district and is big enough to support this family, or you're not going to appeal to that group. Gotcha. So just make sure your money matches up with who the house would appeal to.
Yeah. That makes sense. So, okay, so for someone that, so now that we got the house, but now we have orders, right? So what's the mindset for someone that is looking at this as a business, getting out of that house? What should be taking place during this time?
Yippee! I get to add this money to Empire. Oh, wait, woohoo! I'm going to buy another house. Oh wait, sorry, not that. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is pull off comps to see what your house is worth on the rental market. You don't care about your mortgage. You don't care about your expenses. None of that matters. It doesn't matter how much you put into your house. None of that matters. You pull up your comps and you're like, okay, I have a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,700 square feet. My neighborhood is this. My school district is this. Here's 5 houses. They're all within 1,600 to 1,700. And you're like, okay, 1,600 is not updated at all. Mm-hmm. And don't allow pets. 1,700 is fully updated. Oh, and they don't accept pets, but I accept pets and I'm not updated. Okay, I'm going to try 1,700. Give it a week or two, see what happens. Cool. Now you look at what your mortgage is. And you're like, my mortgage is $1,900. So now do I want to rent or keep it? Because I'm going to lose $200. So now you're like, but my house is appreciated $100,000. Great. I'm going to sell it, take my money and go because renting it didn't make sense. Or you're like, I can't, $200. And so maybe this is when you go to your next duty station. You're not looking at BAH, you're looking at BAH minus $200, plus minus whatever, because you have to build that into your budget.
Yeah.
But if you've looked at it, it's yay, my rent is $1,700, my mortgage is $1,300, now I have $400. So now the decision is like how to go about and what you're willing to do. We've always rented it, even though our houses all would sell for a profit, because we would rather that $400 a month plus the $300 for like our tenants paying off our mortgage every month, and the fact that there's a lot of great tax benefit. So at the end of the year, we're not having to pay taxes on that full money. If anything, we're breaking even or just making a slight profit. So for us, that's how we've always gone. But for many people, those are your 3 steps. What's my price? Am I going to make money or lose money on selling my house, make money or lose money on renting my house? And then do I want to make this a business? Yes, I want to be a landlord. Go list your house onto that process. No, I want to sell it. Go find a realtor. Go on to that process.
Wow. And so, how did you wrap your head around all of this information? Because I know earlier you talked about, having a headache and, so much information. How did you wrap your head around it?
I messed up a whole bunch. Which is one of the reasons I wanted to start Reluctant Landlord, because I remember going in the mortgage bank and they're like, you have a VA loan. Why are we even having this discussion? Use your VA loan. And we didn't talk about any of the other loans available. So that's why, I have a post on all the different kinds of loans and which works best for you. But you know what? we're human.
Yeah.
You're not going to be perfect. Like, the idea is to survive the first process so that you can do it again and you can get better. And like, you just have to start walking so that you can start running, so that you can then start jumping. And then maybe you know, do really well, but you're not going to make a home run the first time. And if you did, think of it like the lottery. Like, we did great with our first house, but we made like every mistake in the book. Yeah. And it turned out, I mean, we kept our principles, was be in a great elementary school, did great, and then be lower than BAH so that we could have enough money to work with it, and that kept us safe. So just knowing that like a few small principles will truly be your salvation, even when you make lots of mistakes. Because, by the way, been there, done that. Come join us on Reluctant Landlords so you can see how I screw up so you don't do it.
I love it, because mistakes, even though they suck, is good, right?
Well, and that's another reason that I started this is like, I have friends and people just, or even like anybody. I mean, if you guys are listening to this podcast and you have questions, and as long as you remember that I'm just a crazy landlord of 8 houses and have no legal advice, PM me away. Happy to help. So everyone's like, you did this right, and oh my gosh, how did you know this? Or wow, you have your stuff together. And then like 3 nights later, I get hit with a question from my own tenants that I don't know, and my husband's watching me pace across the office floor as I'm trying to figure out the answer, and she's laughing at me, and I'm like, this is why it's so easy when other people answer the question, because I already had to figure it out. So it's trial and error, but again, you know, we don't have kids, but I've nannied enough that it's kind of like when my girlfriend tells me how to do something with her 2-year-old, and I'm like, I'm just holding him up and hoping he's okay. And she's like, no, turn him around and give him an apple because that's his favorite food. And like, how do you know that? And she's like, trial and error, Elizabeth. I'm like, oh, okay. It's kind of the same way with your houses. You'll figure it out. You know, for me, I find having a 16-page lease and being that hardcore landlord, like you said, you want the steps. Well, I have the steps. It's written down. Yeah. We have a 16-page manual. There is no discussion. Yeah. I don't discuss things. That was the tipping point to my landlording career. Like, once I stopped having to think about every discussion because it was already agreed upon, it got 100 times easier. Other landlords do really well with like 3 pieces of advice and they're done, you know? So you'll figure out what works best for you. And just don't get overwhelmed. Don't let me telling you I'm $1.3 million in debt and be like, oh my gosh, I just paid off this. No way am I doing this. And go to another podcast. Like, the idea is one house could be great. Like, my parents kept their one house that they had already fixed up. And when they went to sell it, realized that all the work they put into it added no value. So they've always kept it. You know, 10 years later, a realtor knocked on their door and asked, would you like to sell it? So they did, and they rolled it into another house doing a 1033, and then they kept it. And, you know, it paid little things and did this and did that, and it just kind of was that extra money box. So there's lots of ways to be successful with one house. I mean, what would $300 do for you after you had an emergency fund for your house? Yeah. What bill would that pay? Yeah. And how is that worth to have to deal with one phone call once a month and one crisis once a year?
I love that. That's awesome. And I love that analogy about the child, because I have twins, and my first time being a mom of twins, it was not easy. I made a lot of mistakes.
But you survived, and they're adorable, by the way.
Thank you. Yes, so I can definitely relate to that. You know, and I love this because after talking to you, when it comes to house buying, I almost feel like, I mean, I'm not like, you know, a professional, but I don't feel as scared to go and buy a house.
And that's my dream. That's my goal. You know, we got through our first deployment and it was tough. We lost someone. reality, and I made it through because some amazing spouses took me under their wing and made sure I succeeded. And that's my goal for real estate. Yes, it has its moments. Yes, it's gonna stink. And if you don't want it to stink ever so slightly, then I'm really sorry. But being a renter could have its moments when the landlord doesn't respond to you either, by the way. So it's just, there is a way to make this work. And that's my goal, to show it to you, because it's the same way as people who helped me through this military life. It's possible. And if it's not me, there's other people that are successful, and don't be ashamed of asking. Anybody on the podcast that's listening, like, please reach out, whether it's to me or anybody of your friends that know that like this stuff. I mean, we're always willing to help. Me particularly can't cook, so if I bring you food, it's probably Panera, so at least I'm doing food. But take us to what we're good at.
Oh my goodness. Oh man, that is awesome. I love it. I love that you share that. You share the fact that I don't know how to cook.
My husband would tell you I could make like 5 meals. I mean, my frozen dinner post that's gotten like really raving that everybody loves, that has nothing to do with real estate. It's because it's how I supply deployment. I figured out like 6 meals. I put them in little dishes. I froze them, and then I ate them every day. And I cooked once a month. And Panera was the rest of my meals. So, I could walk you through how to buy a mortgage and how to rent your house out, but a recipe just boggles my mind some days. What can I say?
Boggles my mind.
My Blue Apron loves me because it's very step by step. I'm like, I can do this.
I saw your post about HelloFresh and Blue Apron. Yes, they are very step by step, and they have pictures, so it's awesome.
Yes, my husband was complaining that we eat the same food, so I'm like, well, let's see what these boxes do. I try them all out. That was my cooking style. So, and I share this because we're not all good at everything. I mean, my website goes down and I start crying like a baby trying to figure it out. And thankfully, friends have brought it back up. So, like, a mortgage doesn't dot me and I can buy it with my eyes closed. But, like, mess up my website and, oh my gosh. So, use your resources. Like, we're not all good at the same thing, but the amazing thing about like fellow military wives and spouses and just us in general is we're all uniquely talented.
It's so
like,
true.
If I'm not gonna stitch out, I had a friend who did it, and when I needed to help them buy their house, I paid it back.
That's awesome. And that is the fun thing about just being in the military, where you meet a lot of unique and different people that have special gifts. I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh my goodness, Elizabeth, thank you so much for just sharing and, giving us tips about buying a house and even making it a business. It is doable. It is doable. I'm finding out so much information on your website. So guys, if you, there will be some information on my website, A Purpose Driven Wife, at adrivenwife.com for more information about Elizabeth and, just a lot of things that she talked about. I will have links to it, and her blog is amazing, guys. She has tons of resources, and she's coming out with more resources. So definitely, stick around and tune in for more information. Okay. So Elizabeth, any very last thoughts that you have before we close?
You mentioned me being gifted. So we spent the last hour talking about like my gift and how we're building an empire, but please, 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 please don't be overwhelmed. The whole point of this is like, yes, this is my gift, and that's why we bought 8 houses in 4.5 years. But I have friends that have bought 2. This is not their gift. And they've just hung in and bought here and there. And when it made sense because it was cheaper to buy than to rent, they bought. And then when they left, they kept it. And they've made as many mistakes as I have, and I've made a few more. But at the end of the day, they just stuck with it. And before they know it, they were my inspiration because they had 2 paid off houses, or they were able to sell their house and buy their house cash. And I mean, there's all of those stories. So please, you do not have to be gifted. This does not have to be your thing. And you can be totally overwhelmed by the mere idea of getting a mortgage and still do awesome. So keep in mind when you're trying to figure out if this is worth it is, what would $200 do to your budget? What would $400 do to your budget? What would a tenant paying $800 towards his asset over 10 years do when your husband was leaving or you were leaving the military to go into the civilian career? That's what you want to focus on. Remember the babiness, the little steps.
Yeah.
Don't let my 1.3 million or any of that stuff overwhelm you. Think about what $300 would do. That's one house. That's one VA loan that you split in half. One more, so you used your $400, you used $200,000 on one and $200,000 in the other. That's $600 for putting nothing in your house but living there and managing it when you leave. What would that do to your budget? That's what I want you to think about when you're thinking about real estate and if it works for you, because that is the basics and not the overwhelming stuff that we talked about a little bit.
I love that because, I mean, that's what a lot of us tend to think about, you know, that little extra money that will help us, you know. And I know $300 would do a lot. An extra $300 would do a lot for me and my family. So good. That is a good point. Good point.
Well, thank you again for helping or for having me on the show. And if I can help anyone, please, please, please always reach out. Like I said, I'm just that crazy landlord, but if I can help and pay it forward, you know, this is what my gift is. And I'm really happy to share what God and everyone has helped me get to over the years.
Amen. Oh man, thank you so much. And guys, I will have more information about this on my blog, and tune in every Monday for more inspiration and encouragement for the different journey that God has you on. So thank you so much, and tune in next Monday. You guys be blessed. Oh man, guys, did you guys really enjoy, I mean, just the tips that she shared? And can you hear her heart as she shared the passion of really encouraging anybody to either get into real estate, or if this is your first time, you know, just trying to get information on buying a house for your family? Guys, I mean, Elizabeth at Reluctant Landlord blog, she gives so much information about loans and grants, and she even has a checklist on what you should do. I mean, just so much information, guys. I mean, and breaks it down. This is a military spouse that is killing it in the real estate industry. She has 8 homes and is 1.3 million in loan debt, but is making money. And guys, and not saying that money is everything, but if this is your dream, she stated what her purpose in doing the real estate and getting into the real estate industry was just her dream, and her whole purpose is that, and I shared it in part 1 of this episode, is that, you know, her husband wants to retire early, and so that is what she wants, and that is what her and her husband are working towards. And so if this happened to be something that you're interested in doing, definitely, if you have even more questions, just some of the things that we may not have touched on in this episode, definitely reach out to her. All of her information will be at A Purpose Driven Wife at adrivenwife.com. Guys, there is so much information, like I was stating, for you guys to get into. And if you want to contact her, guys, she is very open to that. And she even stated it herself. Guys, I mean, there is absolutely no reason. If this is something that is burning in your heart, but you're just kind of frustrated, or you're not understanding what's going on and you need some tips and some help, Elizabeth is here to help you guys, okay? And I'm just so passionate just about, you know, other women and other military spouses that are also passionate about their business and what they're doing in their field. And I'm just here to just kind of just share the information with you. As me and my household, we are currently in that season where we're looking to buy a house. We're looking to get into that industry. And so this is something that I know has really helped me. I am not nervous, as I stated in the beginning of the podcast. I'm not nervous. You know, I'm not, at first I was just kind of nervous about just what do I do? Because like I said, there's so much information about that. But after talking to Elizabeth and after reading some of her stuff, I am prepared. Like I'm prepared to really get into that field of, really buying a house. Because sometimes when you do like a big purchase like that, you just kind of feel like, maybe somebody's trying to pull one over you, and there's just some hidden stuff that, that you need to find out. Well, Elizabeth has done that on her blog and has shared that even on this podcast. Okay. If you haven't listened to part 1, guys, I am encouraging you to go check out part 1. Everything is on my website at adrianwife.com. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you guys have found this helpful, definitely leave a comment either on my blog or on iTunes. All you have to do is just go to iTunes and type in A Purpose Driven Wife in the search bar. My podcast will come up. Definitely, please leave a comment. If you really enjoyed everything that I'm putting out there, definitely hit me up either on iTunes or on Stitcher Radio. And iTunes is for Apple, and Stitcher Radio is for Android, for those that have an Android phone. Okay. Thank you again so much, guys. I'm really loving all of the love and other information that you guys are really sharing on Instagram, on Facebook. I mean, guys, thank you so much. And for more information, you can also sign up to my newsletter. Every Monday, I send out a newsletter with even more information, encouragement for you to pursue your God-given business dream and what you're passionate about, guys. I love to just encourage moms and business owners and entrepreneurs. And just really help them in pursuing what God has called them to do, has called you guys to do. Again, thank you so much. Tune in next Monday for more information, for more richness, and for more laughs and conversations, guys, and motivations to get you to where God has placed that passion, that dream, that vision in your heart to go and pursue it with fire and passion, guys. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you guys later. Peace.